It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
All right, baby, we are at episode number 50. Number 50, ladies and gentlemen. That is not much of a milestone. I mean, there are people who have hundreds and thousands of podcasts, but I've got 50 of them. Thank you very much. And I just started a couple months ago. So welcome to the show. Things are going quite well, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing a lot of things in the studio. I've got some surprises coming, I should say, for the podcast. All right, I'll just go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. I'm recording the show today on the 15th of March, the Ides of March, ladies and gentlemen, and my special guest tonight on the podcast, which will be recorded not only on audio, but also video and broadcast live on Facebook at Rob Carson Show, will be none other than the man who was my sidekick and producer on KCMO for about a year and a half, Mr. Jared Carter. Mr. Jared Carter will join us on the show. And again, just come here if you want to hear it. If you can't listen to it live on Facebook at Rob Carson Show on the Ides of March at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, then that's fine. We will run the recorded version. Okay? Make sure to check out the website. It is Rob Carson Show, by the way. And also Twitter at Rob Carson. Lots of things happening. Lots of things happening. Oh, yes. I'm also working on a new line of T-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, onesies for your baby, toddler tees, all this, all politically incorrect. All politically incorrect. And some just kind of fun. But I think you'll enjoy them. We're working with a wonderful guy, and he's putting it together for me. He's a brilliant graphic designer, and he's from the Kansas City area, Sam Gangelosi. All right, so I'm really excited for you to see this. I think it's going to be good, and it's going to kind of mark a new way, a new direction for the radio show. It's interesting because, it is to me anyway. I've had to reinvent myself a couple of times. A few years ago, I worked in music radio, and I realized the folly of just playing a lot of music because essentially there are a lot of radio stations, commercial radio stations that are music stations that are nothing more than a Pandora channel with a lot of commercials and other noise and traffic and weather and all the things you don't need. And I noticed my son is more and more plugging his phone into the car, and he listens to his podcasts in the car. He listens to his music in the car. And I decided that I would do talk radio because you can't, and I don't know if you'd want to replicate what I do on the radio. I don't know if most people would really want to do that. I don't know. So then I left terrestrial radio in November, not saying that I won't go back because I still believe in terrestrial talk radio. I do. It's a force to be reckoned with. So I do believe in it. However, I'm enjoying doing this. I'm enjoying doing this a lot. And if I could make a go of this, whether it be with the video and audio podcast, the live Facebook, whether it be the T-shirts and all the sundry goods and whatnot, building a brand is important. And if I can make it happen this way and you can enjoy the show as much as I do, then I'm going to go that way. All right, I'm going to go that way. All right, let's get into the big story of the day. Rachel Maddow last night on MSNBC. Promoted all day, tweeted all day yesterday. I'm looking at an article. This is from Slate, oddly enough, very left of center publication. 7:36 p.m. Tuesday night, Rachel Maddow tweeted, "Breaking, we've got Trump tax returns tonight at 9." Sending the internet into a frenzy of theorizing. Did Maddow have Donald Trump's tax returns or just one of Donald Trump's tax returns? Could this be the tax return that would bring down the Donald if this was? Why wasn't NBC cutting into its programming instead of running a countdown clock to Maddow's show? By 8:24, Maddow was tweeting that the tax return in question was Donald Trump's 1040 from 2005. By 8:30, still a half hour before Maddow started airing, the White House responded to the MSNBC report saying that Trump had paid $38 million on income of $150 million that year. An hour later, about 20 minutes after the Rachel Maddow show started, Maddow would have confirmed these numbers, turning her big scoop about Donald Trump's long-missing tax returns into a cautionary tale about overhype. Rachel, you played yourself and us too. This is from Slate, and here's the big, less than spectacular announcement. We'll just call it her Geraldo Rivera moment.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax returns. We have his federal tax return for 1 year for 2005. I believe this is the only set of the president's federal taxes that reporters have ever gotten a hold of. What we have are these 2 pages, front and back, from the same 1040 form that you might have filled out when you file your taxes. And in terms of what's on here, let me give you the basics. Aside from the numbers being large, these pages are straightforward. He paid $38 million, looks like $38 million in taxes. He took a big write-down of $103 million. More on that later. If you add up the lines for income, he made more than $150 million in that year. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov. There you go. Wow. There is so much anti-Trump hysteria in the country right now. You know this as well as I do. You've got people who are being paid by George Soros and others to hold Insta protests about Donald Trump. You've got every network, MSNBC, NBC, going after Donald Trump about a Russian collusion to throw over the election. None of that is coming to fruition. You've got scandal after scandal. A couple weeks ago, Jeff Sessions should have, according to Chuck Schumer, should have resigned as Attorney General 2 weeks into his tenure as Attorney General because of something that he said in a congressional hearing. All of these things come and go. And when you don't bite or when they don't have any traction, they disappear immediately. Last night, Rachel Maddow made a fool of herself, and the people around her made a fool of her as well. I don't know if she was being told that this was more than she was going to get. I don't know if her underlings didn't bother reading the damn thing. They just said, we got big news, Rachel. Here it is, whatever. Go on with it tonight. Hype it. Back to this piece in Slate. I didn't get a chance to see the whole Maddow debacle last night, but apparently she went into this kind of conspiratorial thicket, right? She said, it's been a little bit of a hullabaloo around here this evening. I apologize for being flustered. In just a second, I'm going to show you exactly what we've got. Then she went into a 20-minute monologue where she was really nervous, trying to bring up conspiracy theories about Donald Trump. Okay? Turns out things weren't as juicy as they thought. An entire episode about highly damaging tax returns is just as likely to get great ratings as milking the possibility that you have highly damaging tax returns, less likely to get you compared to Geraldo, but that's what she did last night. And by the way, I didn't even know this. She even went so far as to hold the tax returns back until after the first commercial break. And this, according to Slate, says, it kind of like watching an episode of The Bachelor, or what is it, American Idol. And the winner is coming up right after this. Oh, my goodness. You can wish all you want for the downfall of someone. You can hope and think that everything is going to be the one thing that takes this person down. But you are going to get suckered in. What do you think about how long Donald Trump has been around on the national scene, how long he ran for president? And never has any of this taken him down. Sooner or later, you're just going to have to swallow the pill and realize that he is your president. Because honestly, 4 or 8 years of this is going to get completely just ridiculous. It's going to fall on deaf ears. Now, this reporter, apparently, David K. Johnson, was the guy who got a hold of the tax returns. All right? David K. Johnson went after the president last night, confirming his reporting by preempting it, the relevant information before Maddow's big reveal. I don't know why that's a big deal. Johnson had said Maddow's overhyped Tuesday night broadcast that it's entirely possible that Donald Trump sent this to me. Donald Trump has over the years leaked all sorts of things. Now, wait a minute. Wouldn't that be kind of like, I don't know, waiting 6 years to show the media your birth certificate? I'm just saying. Right? Right? Johnson apparently responded to the White House saying that he had given the White House a heads up, sending Trump's aides the documents in his possession, giving them a chance to leak them to other journalists. And he said, professional PR people don't do things like that. I've never had a White House, in my experience, goes back 50 years, do something like that. All right? You got suckered. You got suckered and you got played. And if, in fact, Donald Trump sat on this to bring down you, Mr. Johnson, or MSNBC, it is one of the most brilliant political moves I've ever seen going after the media, which the Trump administration considers to be its enemies, essentially. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Piece from Tom Sheddick. We've dodged 2 winter storms in a row. The first was named Stella. The second looked like Rachel, as in Rachel Maddow. Nature will take its course, but Maddow veered off wildly. Off course last night when the Pride of NBC announced via social media she had Donald Trump's tax returns. Maddow had 2 pages. Showed he paid $38,000 or $38 million on $150 million. No Russians, no shady dealings, nothing. Who would let Maddow torture viewers with her usual 15-minute long monologue and have no payoff at the end of the ordeal? Crazy people. That's who. People who have driven themselves insane over the fact that they cannot get past that Hillary Clinton got her ass handed to her in the election. They cannot believe that she was not coronated. They cannot believe that Donald Trump, who they laughed and laughed and laughed about for a year and a half, guffawed at the possibility of Donald Trump becoming the president. And now they're beginning to realize, holy crap, he's doing a good job. Holy crap, the job numbers are looking good. Housing starts looking good. Consumer confidence looking good. The GDP looking good. Oh my, their heads are exploding and they've got to take him down before it gets too good. By the way, Donald Trump in 2005 paid 25% Fed. John Kerry in 2003, 22. George Bush in 1998, 20. Barack Obama in 2015, 18.7%. Mitt Romney in 2011, 14%. And Bernie Sanders in 2014, 13.5%. That doesn't sound very socialistic. That doesn't sound like you're paying your fair share, sir. That does not sound like you're paying your fair share. So the effective income tax rate for all U.S. households in 2005 was 8.8%, according to the Tax Policy Center. That means Trump's rate was nearly triple that of the average American household. Now, I'm assuming this is also including people who don't pay taxes. Anybody making under $50,000 doesn't pay taxes. Now, the rest of us, you don't pay 8.8%. I don't pay 8.8%. But this shows everybody, and the fact that half the population doesn't pay any income taxes makes it look like you and I pay less. All right? The average effective rate for the top 1% of income earners in 2005 was 19.7%. Few points less than Donald Trump. So he paid more than he should have, essentially. He paid more than he should have. Oh, my goodness. I had, by the way, a Rachel Maddow omelet this morning for breakfast. It started off with a lot of cheese, some ham, and then I ended up with egg all over my face. And it was wonderful. It was actually very wonderful. She certainly does have that on her face today. I'm not going to say anything else about something on her face. I'm just going to let that one go and move on. We had to mention Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, of course, is wanting to whip people into a frenzy about the Trump administration's plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, or as of right now, Obamacare Light. Sanders was on a MSNBC town hall meeting on All In with what's his name, Chris Hayes, who looks about 12. And he did all of the usual stuff, the fear mongering, the distortions and whatnot. Let's listen to what Bernie had to say about the new health care bill.
So the irony is, I think you're suggesting, is that many of the folks who voted for Trump are going to be hurt the most. One of the reasons, again, we can...
He's talking about people in coal country, people in the flyover states.
Agree with the Affordable Care Act. You don't like the Affordable Care Act, whatever. Nobody denies that when a piece of legislation impacts tens of millions of people and many, many hundreds of billions of dollars, it is significant. To the best of my knowledge, as of today, what the Republicans want to do, because they don't want discussion like this about what's in the bill.
Okay, now, the Obama administration did nothing to invite the Republicans into the chambers where the bill was being discussed. They were locked out. Literally, locks changed on chamber doors to exclude Republicans from any input into Obamacare. There were some town halls for Obamacare, but they were usually just a preaching by Barack Obama and a bunch of trumped-up statistics. Yes, I used trumped-up statistics. I didn't need, you know what I'm trying to say. Then when they went to pass the damn thing, they did it in the dead of night using legislative chicanery against the will of the American people who at the time, over 60% disapproved of the bill.
What they want to do is pass it in a very brief period of time in the House, bring it to the Senate without any hearings at all.
Okay, now, by the way, the Republican bill is online right now. You can see it. It's been up there for about a week. That didn't happen with Barack Obama's Obamacare. They said they'd post it 72 hours before its passage, and they never did.
Precedented for a major piece of legislation like that.
Not at all. Not at all. And to compound it even further, it was made inordinately complex. I believe the final bill was over 2,300 or 2,600 pages of Obamacare, passed in the dead of the night, against the will of the American people. Did I say that? Yeah, I did.
So there is a reason why the American Medical Association opposes it, why the American Hospital Association opposes it, why AARP and many groups, the AFL-CIO, many other.
AFL-CIO is a liberal leftist activist union. AARP the same way. I am technically old enough to receive AARP benefits as of about a year ago. And I told them to go to hell because they supported Obamacare against the will of the American people.
Organizations oppose it because it does the things that Judy talked about.
Okay, here comes the big one. Here comes the big one. This is the go-to with any sort of attack on any type of Republican legislation. It's the havoc that it will actually impart on people.
It's going to result in people dying.
There you go. It's going to result in people dying. You knew we were going to hear it's going to result in people dying.
Because if you don't have health insurance and you get sick, what do? You don't go to the doctor.
Yeah, well, you know what else? You don't go to the doctor when your deductible is $10,000. You don't. You don't go to the doctor when you can't afford. You've got a health care plan that's gone up 300 or 400%, and you've got to try to get to $10,000. And you know that mammography or that whatever that you want to get, you're going to have to pay cash for initially. You're going to have to pay cash for it initially. And you may never get to that deductible. So chances are you need that colonoscopy and you can't afford that, whatever it is, $500,000, whatever the thing costs. You're not at that deductible. It's $10,000. You won't go. So give me a break, Bunny. Give me a break. All right. Oh, this is funny. The CBO is warning. And you saw the CBO report that apparently 24 million people going to lose health care under this new Republican bill, yada, 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 all this stuff. Wait till you hear what the CBO has to say about what defunding Planned Parenthood would result in. I'm going to share that. Newt Gingrich was talking to Martha McCallum earlier this week about the CBO. Now, the CBO are the same people who made all these promises about Obamacare. There's going to be wonderful. It's going to bring down premiums. All of that stuff is going to cost so much less, and they were all wrong. They were all wrong. It's a group of political hacks. Here's what Newt Gingrich had to say about the CBO and what should happen to it.
They should abolish the Congressional Budget Office. It is corrupt. It is dishonest. It was totally wrong on Obamacare by huge, huge margins. I don't trust a single word they have published, and I don't believe them.
But the head of it is a Trump appointee, and in many ways, I think people maybe misjudge what they're supposed to do. I mean, their job is to figure out whether or not this is something that could get through on reconciliation, right?
They lie.
Not to make a judgment about the whole bill.
Let me be very clear. No, let me be very clear. Okay, I helped balance the budget 4 straight times, the only time in your lifetime.
Yeah, you did.
We fought the Congressional Budget Office every time. When Obamacare came out, they used the architect of Obamacare as their advisor on how to score Obamacare, and their scoring, you go back and look at it, it is a totally dishonest, disgustingly wrong, and it is that whole thing should be abolished. They should replace it by putting out to bid and having 3 to 5 professional firms score these things. Nobody has an exact score. It's not possible. And even tonight,
get it out of the hands of government sooner or later. In government, there will be some sort of partisanship. And as of right now, and as of in 2010, The CBO skewed left.
Dr. Tom Price, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, pointed out there are whole sections of this bill they didn't score. So I really do think it's disgusting, and I'm really disappointed that the Republicans have not abolished the Congressional Budget Office because it is so profoundly dishonest.
Okay, there you go. Newtster. So the CBO, in their report on Republicans' health care plan, says the included provision to defund Planned Parenthood would result in, quote, additional births stemming from the reduced access to services that help women avert pregnancies. They're saying that babies being born is a bad thing. The government would incur some costs, I'm quoting from the CBO, for Medicaid beneficiaries currently served by affected entities because the costs of about 45% of all births are paid for by the Medicaid program. CBO estimates the additional births stemming from the reduced access under legislation would add to federal spending for Medicaid. In other words, human lives are not worth it to the government. That's what they're saying. Human lives are not worth it. We're better off committing genocide in the womb to keep down the cost of Medicaid. That's what they're saying. It's pretty sick. CBO states to the extent there would be reductions in access to care under the legislation, they would affect services that help women avert pregnancies or end them. And by the way, birth control's cheap, and so are condoms generally. The people most likely to, and by the way, isn't birth control covered in Obamacare, no matter where you go? So when you say avert pregnancies, you're talking about end pregnancies in the middle of pregnancies. The people most likely to experience reduced access to care would probably reside in areas without other healthcare clinics or medical practitioners who serve low-income populations, which means, son of a gun, more black people are going to live. More people are poor people are going to live. Some cities, the abortion rate among African-American babies, 70%. 70%. Republicans' plan calls for the elimination of federal funding for the nation's largest abortion business for a period of 1 year. And it should go bye-bye. If you want to pay for somebody's abortion, write a big fat check. If you want to pay for somebody's abortion, write a big fat check. Surprising number of businesses bidding to build the border. Businesses bidding to build the border wall are Hispanic owned. Yeah. Apparently, the Hispanic vote 65-29 against Trump toward Hillary. Surprising number of Hispanic business owners are now looking to cash in on the federal government's attempt to build a 1,300-mile, multi-billion-dollar border wall. Mario Burgos owns the Albuquerque-based professional services firm Burgos Group, just one of the about 60 Hispanic business owners who are now bidding for contracts with the federal government as it seeks to fulfill Trump's campaign promise to build a wall. About 600 private businesses have tossed their names to the hat, 10% of them Hispanic. Burgos says it's not an immigrant thing for me. It's about creating jobs. And honestly, it's like any other job. Patrick Balcazar, Hispanic business owner looking to cash in on it. He thinks that building the wall between the two countries is a terrible idea. But he also says work is work. Work is work. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And by the way, the wall's going to cost about $25 billion. $25 billion. Okay, let's listen to some other audio. Did you hear this woman who hounded Sean Spicer? He was going into, apparently it was in an Apple store in D.C. Sri Chauhan decided to essentially attack him. This happened on Saturday. And she's a radical leftist. She's 33 years old. She should know better. She's an adult, but she acted like a child. Here she is confronting Sean Spicer.
Feel to work for a fascist? How does it feel? You have a great country. How do you have you helped with the Russia stuff? Are you a criminal as well?
She must get these talking points. She's got to get them from someone because the